Hello everyone, today I want to represent EU industrial policy. So, it's strategy by European Union to support and guide industry across its member country. This main goal is to promote economic growth, innovation, and global competitiveness, while also considering environmental and social priority. So, what is that? It support key industry and drive green transition to European Green Deal and help EU companies compete globally. It also reduce dependence on import, create job and scale, and provide funding support. So now there's an important shift in policy. In the past, the EU more focused on markets with limited state support, but now moving toward to state intervention with stronger support for key industry and more public investment. The example include EUTS and European Green Deal. So this shift is mostly caused by three major shocks. The first one is dependent on China for raw material. The second one is competition for the US. The last one is energy problem after Russia and Ukraine war. The challenges for the US or the EU to take more of this role in protecting its economy and competitiveness.
Now I'm going to present about the impact of EU on the industrial policy. First, the EU has become stronger by increasing its support for the strategic industries such as the green technologies and semiconductor. It helps reduce dependence on the external supply chains and also improve global competitiveness. But it also creates internal challenges because an equal distribution of subsidies across the member states and also make larger economy have stronger financial capacity, but smaller countries have smaller subsidies. So overall, the EU becomes stronger externally but more unequal internally. So this shows that stronger government involvement in the economy today. So the European Union is increasing support for the industry, such as the European Chip Act, which include like 43 billion euros in the public funding. This gives EU firms an advantage and also create less fair competition. Nowadays, global trade rules are becoming weaker, and more subsidies make it harder for the WTO to maintain fair trade rules. And WTO disputes that on subsidies have increased since 2010, and this shows growing tension in the global trade, and the weakness of global trade rules become more tension and more intense. So this leads to the regional trading. They also know as the friend-shoring trend, and because countries trade more with their trusted partners because they don't believe in other partners anymore. So in the past, we see interdependency as the benefit, but now it is seen as a risk. So they move toward the selective partnership, like they trade with more trusted partners, and they reduce reliance in the critical sectors such as energy, technologies, and raw materials. Yeah.
So we use structuralism. So in this unequal hope with a very global economy, external pressure cheap trade deficit with Taiwan and China can lead to internal pressure within EU. So EU intervenes to avoid dependency and focus on strategic industry. But the problem is that unilateral industrial policy can create unequal benefit. So EU solved it by using state aid rules to support industrial policy. But during 2022 and 2024, state aid for long-term goals increased, while short-term crisis aid decreased. So this transition revealed internal inequality. Most countries prioritize long-term strategic investment, and absolute spending is dominated by major economies like Germany and France. So high spending in those countries with a low physical capacity in countries like Ireland can create unequal aid distribution, which leads to unfair advantage in the EU market. So to manage this, EU have regulations such as FDI regulation and CHIPS Act and other plans. They also aim to correct massive trade imbalance in 2022. So for every case study proves this theory work. So government bypass market computation, allowing countries like Germany and France to build a high-tech aerospace sector that could finally challenge the US Boeing monopoly. So state intervention is a form of powerful structuralist tool to to break the external pressure and dependency. So EU industrial policy is a response to this external pressure, and it's also a way like to manage state behavior and to prevent the system from becoming chaotic.
Okay, so the EU argue that the industry policy that there represents adaptation but later than the rupture. So the policy that respond to the global competitions and supply chain disruption and the reduce dependencies. But EU still support the free trade agreements and the global economic cooperations. Thank you.
Okay. For the first thing is that, okay, when you go out and take a read from the slides, you accept the very low grade as I've announced from the very beginning of the class. Okay? Don't be mad at me if your score quite low because you go out and just take a read from the slide. Okay? This would be the first one. Okay? And then, okay, group one, where is group one? Okay, question please.
So my question is like, do you guys think EU is really like putting effort to protect multilateralism, like based on the current geopolitical shift? In economic growth. Do you think like EU is trying its best to protect multilateralism, like given to the current global geopolitical shift?
The first thing is, I guess the European Union.
Switch on the mic.
This,
Okay. Mm.
I think the European Union has protection. I don't think the European Union has shifted away from the multilateralism. Also, we need to shift our version that what happened, the external pressure like the supply chain distribution and other political geopolitics risks are higher and higher due to the revival power, neo-revisionist revival power has strongly challenges to the Western power. So the European Union is just how can I say that? Just a one polar. They need to protect the free trade. Also have to protect the how can I say interstate industrial policy too.
Hmm? This is your answers, right? Okay. Anyone just want to add something up? Actually, the question is about the EU roles to support the multilateralism, right, in the global structure. Okay. Okay. EU. Does EU support the global structure as the multilateralism?
Just I want to answer. The EU is just to support the multilateralism. That it is another way to protect its international interest. Also have to how can I say? Also have to support the free trade.
Okay. How could it support? What would be your evidence?
And based on the neo-materialism, the state the protectivism is just a tool to make the state to be development. Based on that, we are the era of the rise of those neo-materialism. So, based on this trend, the European Union
Yes, I do think that like EU is trying its best to support the multilateralism in this like global region. And also we can see from our slide that the introduction of the EU industrial policy is a way of protecting is the EU member state and also like practicing the international market policies to reduce the external dependency, especially on China, and also it has like economic survivors and also the economic interdependence as well. I think that it's also like the benefits from the EU industrial policies across the member states are quite unequal, but we can see from the like our slide as a Germany, France also like benefits. It's also helped the Germany as a it's actually like enhance its autostrated enhance its like manufacturing its existing manufacturing as well. So I think that in a from an economic nationalism as well, EU is trying its best to protect its multilateralism, and like ASEAN, I think EU is quite a strong like regional bloc. Yes. That would be my answer.
Group A5. Group 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. So my
Please
question
speak
is
louder.
that do you think the EU's industrial policy will increase or reduce global economic interdependence?
You mean global trade economy?
Yeah, EU industrial policy will increase or reduce global economic interdependence.
Global economy interdependence. So in my opinion, I think it may reduce the global dependency through traditionally, because like as we already present in our slide, the EU industrial policy becomes to be external dependency too much on the China and also subsidy on the US. So is kind of derivatives from the traditionally relies on those major our country, but is providing the relations between the internet between the European Union member. So I think that it may reduce the global economy interdependency.
But EU has been happened to support the free trade area. So how could this free trade area reduce the global economy? You said that actually becoming and joining countries to be in an EU, right? So this to do what? Making cooperation together, right? And making such a free trade area together of country among the countries. So how could this making cooperation among countries with the free trade area reduce the potential of the global economy? No.
Okay. It's not wholly or entirely isolate themselves from the WTO, but they tend to be more like create the structure and also just trade with their own bloc country, with the friends or like the trust partners. So it becomes more like kind of more structural and fragmented to the global WTO. But it doesn't mean that it's isolate themselves from the WTO entirely.
I don't talk about the WTO, but I just talk about the global economy, right? Different things. Why EU just need to make itself as the key factors in global economy?
To reduce independence from global power countries and to create their economic autonomy in their country.
But they themselves are the great powers in the world already. No?
To make fair trade.
Make fair trade. So they become and combine each other to make fair trade by growing much more to challenge with other countries in this world.
So EU may be major power as addressed us, but as the data we provided in the slide, you can see that they rely too much on like Taiwan and China for the chip and also other for especially for like semiconductor sector. So I think maybe because they want to reduce those dependency because it can be like a danger in the future, maybe.
What year to generate EU? To establish EU, what year? Okay, at that time, does EU need to have chip from Taiwan and China already? No. So that's why I asked you that, why EU just need to come and join each other to be the key factors in the global economy? No. Group 5, prepare your slide.
Or with other country, maybe their industry or their EU development or EU's economic growth might face a crisis in the future. So that's why they have to collaborate with other country or also. But however, they are now changing this diversity. Like they are relying other country like China for the raw earth, for the ship for the other country, and then for the relying on the US too much as they want to change this situation. Because more country like this and more country become aggressive about the economy just look their their interest and also their economic trade is we can see is become weakened. So that's why EU. But EU is just trying their for their independent, but they are just but keep collaborating with other countries, not collapse EU industry or not weaken. Yes, in the future.
Okay. Actually, because you just need to develop the paper based on this presentation, I don't think that you all understand your ideas towards the EU. So I don't think you understand why EU happened and how could it play a big role in this world, politically and economically. So that's why, okay, your answers may not go on that way. Okay? Please go back and then just try to take a look deeply. Okay? Because the expectation to all of you quite very high because you all here senior students. Okay? Please go back and try better in understanding this case again. Okay, thank you very much.